use that insult to build the rest of my career on the back of that insult. And it fueled me when I couldn't find fuel in other places. Be careful, women are vindictive. I got even, I got successful. In the first 5 years of building my business, I was hyper-focused, like laser focused, because all I wanted to be was the queen of New York real estate. I had it in my mind on day 1, I had it on day 2, I had it on day 14, and it never left my mind. I was hyper-focused on who I wanted to be, which was the queen of New York real estate. All the work was about getting there, but that's the zone I was in, definitely. On day 1, in my head, I saw myself as the queen of real estate. I saw people coming up and kissing my ring like the Pope. Like, yes, yes. I saw people asking, oh, Barbara, please tell us. I saw the clothing I was going to wear, which is vastly different than the clothing I had on, the shoes I was going to buy. So for me, it was a roadmap. It was crystal clear, full color. And when did I see that fruition? Inch by inch. As I was able to, like someone would ask me a question, oh, someone's asked me a question, or someone would not kiss my ring, but say, oh, that was amazing what you said. Oh, really? I went right back to that picture. It was coming true, little by little by little. And then that's when I sold my business as well, 30 years later, when one day I realized I was the queen of real estate. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I guess I'll sell. What else am I going to work on? I think the number one thing that got me to where I am today is just simple hard work, okay? I've always worked my buns off, well beyond anybody I know in my peer group, okay? But if you work twice as hard as something, you're generally going to get twice as far, if not 3 times farther. So overwork is definitely the number one thing. And then if I could pick a second one as to what got me to where I am, I would say over-preparation. I over-prepare for everything I do, born out of insecurity of maybe not being able to deliver. And what an advantage that is in any situation when you walk in and you've well over-prepared over the next competitor. You'll usually leave the situation with the gold. I had so many jobs, none of them important, but I have to say my still favorite job, and if all the chips are down, I had to make a living to eat, I would definitely go back to waitressing. I have to tell you, waitressing is a great way to learn about business. In a real way, you're in business for yourself. You have your tables, your counter, whatever you're in charge of. You're paid on a commission basis in the form of tips, give great service, charm people, remember their name, get their coffee there first, you get more money. How fair. That's the way business is. That's the way real life is. And your day flies by. I don't think I ever had a waitressing day where I didn't thoroughly enjoy it. I'd be shocked, oh, it's 10 o'clock already. My God, I could go home. So by far, other than sales, waitressing was my best job, but I think that's because it's really another form of sales. And I wasn't worried about saving money or using it wisely. If I had an instinctive gut idea on something, I ran out with it as fast as I could. And so I wasted a lot of money, but what I got for that were a lot of successful ideas. Because it's like research in progress, try this, try that, try that. And what it implies is that you have an open mind and you're optimistic that things are going to work out. And the funny thing about an open mind on money, things usually work out because you're headed that, your whole spirit is about, come on, I can do this, I can do this. And it kind of works out. I think money's meant to be spent, which I know doesn't sound like prudent advice. But if you are not afraid to spend money when it involves betting on yourself, that's the key thing, not the next guy, betting on yourself, chances are pretty good that money's going to make you more money. I think the most underestimated quality in all entrepreneurs that I don't underestimate at all, because it's the main quality, is their ability to get over an obstacle and keep on going. When you're building a business, you have your good days, but you have a lot more bad days than good days where the chips are down and you're not sure how you're going to make it to the finish line. But you have to really be able to take anything that hits you in the head or flies in your face or becomes an obstacle before it's a big obstacle and think quickly on your feet on how to solve it. I think that takes a certain quality in the personality that doesn't get bothered by that stuff. And so when they get hit and they get hit and they get hit, they have that ability to keep popping up, and it's almost like an attitude of hit me again, I'm stupid, hit me again. But that exact thing is common to anyone who builds a great business, because they wouldn't have gotten there if they can't get over obstacles and bounce right back up. So that bouncing up is the number one quality in my book, and that has never changed. If you have a great idea for a business, the first thing you should do is get it out there. What people tend to do instead is analyze it to death and get everything in order, get the business plan down, get their ducks in order, how they're going to finance it. I think there's a time where you have to give that a little thought, but the problem with giving it a little thought, it leads to more thought. And when you give it more thought, you always find something else that you're missing. And as a result, you don't get it out there. I think there's a tendency to feel as though you have to have everything in perfect order, be a perfectionist. And the problem with that is by not getting out there, you don't even have a chance to revamp your product, your sales pitch, your pricing. The only way you can test it is to get it out there in the market. So I think if you have even a prototype of, say, a product or a new service with basic pitch points to it, you ought to walk out in the street, hit a couple of strangers and see if they'll pay you for it. That's the beginning of a business, not on paper or safely at your desk in your office. Whenever anyone's pitching me a business idea, I'm looking for the same old stuff. I'm looking for someone, number one, that hits me over the head with high energy, because I've never seen anybody build a business without high energy. So that's like a basic, like breathing. I also am looking for someone that I can trust. And it's a weird thing about trust. You don't really know how you get there, but you know when it's not there. So if I have anything in my body that says I don't really trust this guy or gal, I just don't go any farther with it, because I don't think it's going to end in a good place. Okay? And lastly, I'm looking for somebody who's pretty street smart. And it's hard to see if somebody's street smart when they're standing in front of you pitching. But you could see how they think. And I'm really looking for someone who thinks fast on their feet, can answer questions quickly. I believe what they say. It feels like practical answers versus theoretical answers. And then I guess that also circles around back to trusting. I'm sure anyone investing in any business has things that bother them, but for me, it's a stupid little thing, which is called fancy talk. When people are talking about burn rate as though it's a great thing, I'm thinking about burning my money. That's not a good thing. When they're using a lot of fancy terms I've learned in business school, I'm totally turned off. Because I generally find people who are talking like that really don't know how to do. They can talk, but they can't do. And I made that assumption every time. And when I did, I was correct. I didn't lose my money. But when someone can communicate clear as a bell and say it like it is, then I usually always make money on those deals. So that's been my big red flag. The best part about Shark Tank is honestly, once the show is over, when we start to work with the entrepreneurs. Because if you ask anyone who's built a business, they'll tell you the first dozen years of building your business, if not even the first 5 years, are the most fun part of the whole thing. Because you're at risk, you're dreaming about where you want to go, you're young, you have energy, you're going to pour it into your business. And that was my best time in my business, as it is for most people. But I get to do that again and again and again, like a happy Groundhog Day with each of these entrepreneurs. So I get to get the best part of the show with each and every one of them. And that's a thrill. Much more exciting than sitting on the set, for sure, which is mostly analyzing and performing. But then the real deal starts, which is working with the entrepreneurs and actually getting to help them build their business. You'll never succeed without me. And thank God he said that to me, because I knew he had just handed me an insurance policy to succeed for the rest of my life. Because every time I thought of failing, or every time my back was against the wall, and every single real estate recession where I was out of money, out of luck, and thinking I was going down, I would just think of those words and a miracle would happen. I would think of one more idea to try to stay in business. And without those words, I think I would have given up many, many times. And that's what kept me on the straight and narrow, pushing ahead, because I couldn't stand the thought that he would watch me fail. Amazing how these negative things really play out in life, but that's how it played out for me. Well, of course, 20 years later, I did succeed without him, and I sold my business for $66 million cash. And you know what? Things worked out for him too, because he married Tina, had 3 more children with her, and he's still married. And from the looks of it, what I saw about 5 years ago at my book party, he looked like he was happier than I was with my husband, Bill. So go figure. Everybody got what they wanted and everybody won, but that's the way it goes. When Sister Stella Marie told me if I didn't learn to pay attention, I would always be stupid, that was the day I first discovered that I had a label, and it was about failure. My idea of hell, to this day, is being asked to read out loud, to have the shame that you feel reading out loud. And in a situation where education, whole system, judges a child's intelligence simply based on how well they could read or write to certain abilities. I learned how to be a loser. And I couldn't wait to get out of that jailhouse that everybody loved at school. I couldn't wait the day I got out of it. And so when I grew up, I continued to learn a lot about failure, but frankly, I realized that that was the best calling card for the rest of my life, because nothing was going to feel as bad as that for me ever again. Now, when I finally built the courage to leave that business partnership 2 years later, which was 2 years too long, on the way out the door, he said to me, you know, you'll never succeed without me. And I felt in my heart, through every bone in my body, that I would rather die than let him see me not succeed. And it was that insult which really became my insurance policy to continue in business no matter what was happening, because I didn't want to let that guy see me fail. And he said, this time we did it in real time on this new thing called the internet. And so I took all my videos, I shoved them on the internet, I put them online. I didn't even know what online meant then. And boom, boom, within the first week I had 2 sales out of London. So I immediately registered every one of my competitors' URLs so that they would have to call me and ask for their URL, as they discovered the thing that was about to change the real estate industry as we knew it then. And can you imagine the advantage I had, having a 2-year heads up and a head start on all of my competitors to horse around and discover what I could do online. I would have never discovered online if I hadn't failed with the $77,000, and that was my reward. My first is that I made a habit of rewarding efforts more than results. And so each of my offices had a good idea box, a big bright yellow box with a slot on the top, as though it was made for a child. Salespeople, were expected to put their ideas in a box. I can tell you, when I opened those boxes every Monday morning at the sales meeting, most of the ideas were terrible. But I gave out $1 for the good ideas and $1 for the bad ideas. And by doing that, the message was, just keep the ideas coming. I've learned about people who know how to fail because I was in a failure business. If you're in real estate, it's a business of rejection, a lot of no's and very few yeses. And I made a study my whole life of trying to figure out why I had certain salespeople earning $3 or $4 million a year selling apartments, and then I had someone on average making $65,000. What's the difference? I studied and studied, and this is what I found. It was never the contacts I came in to the business with, which is what the common culture believed, because that evened out after the first year. It was never how hard they worked, because some of my worst salespeople worked the hardest. The only difference between the people that were hugely successful and those that were not, were they took less time feeling sorry for themselves. They almost had a lower IQ, so that if you smacked them and hit them down, they popped back up and said, I'm so stupid, hit me again. And you know what? I learned as a hirer to lead a good team. I looked for that characteristic in everyone I hired, because if you could take a hit and keep coming back at, you always hit the finish line. And that was a singular difference between my superstars and everybody else. What would have happened if I hadn't stood up and wrote that email and not accepted the rejection? I wouldn't have had the job, number one. I wouldn't have known these people, and all those lives would have been changed. How important it was that I sat up. I also learned, after I was on the set for almost 2 months, that they had rejected 3 times more people, had them all sign contracts and only picked 25%. And my producer said no one wrote a letter, no one sent an email, no one objected. Couldn't they be in those seats today? Probably, but I'm so thankful I wrote my email. I've learned to think of failure after everything I've done in life as a lucky charm, as a little, like a heads up, a little bright light. Because you know what? I have never had it where I haven't seen that the flip side of that is always the biggest opportunity. It just has happened that way for me my whole life, right? And I feel that my own personal ability to handle rejection is more largely responsible for every success I've had than anything else I've done in business. And believe me, I've learned a lot, and I can do a lot of other stuff. But the one thing I do so well is I fail well.
3 lessons about succeeding in business for men, but particularly for women.
3 lessons. I hate when people ask me the most thing, the 3 this. Okay, let me just tell you
one.
What comes to my mind. Number 1, focus on what you do well. So many people start a business and try to do everything from the get-go. I think you really have to know yourself, what your gifts are, and do a lot of it and try to find some other sucker to do the stuff that you are not good at. That's the truth. That's what makes a great partnership or good delegation. Whereas most people hammer away at everything thinking you have to be good. No, I knew what I was good at building my business. I was great at marketing. I was great at recruiting people. And that's what I did almost for my third year in business only. I focused on that. That would be one. Focus on what you're really good at. Everybody's got a gift. You just have to figure out what your gift is and hammer away at it. That's what I think. It's all the same. You know what television is? Or at least my role on Shark Tank? It's judging people and recruiting them if you like them. It's no different than what I did at the Corcoran Group. I recruited talent, kept them happy once they were in my stable so that they never ever want to leave, because that's expensive and counterproductive. And I do the same thing with Shark Tank and my entrepreneurs. I'm doing the same thing all over again, okay? And marketing, I'm good at that. I can help them with the marketing.
Second skill.
Oh, second skill.
Tip.
I would say before you go into business, ask yourself how good you are at handling a kick in the gut and rejection, because that is the major card that divides the people that have succeeded very well on Shark Tank that I've invested in and the people who have fallen to the wayside. Some people might have better education, Harvard MBA. They really are intellectually much more capable than the other guy. But I always succeed with the guy that can take a kick in the gut and doesn't have the ability to feel sorry for themselves. It's the ability to feel sorry for yourselves that is the damnation of most people in business, I find.
I wasn't actually investing in properties, I was investing in people. I found all the people like me that never had a head start, the people that didn't think they could compete, and I made them my little tattered band. And before you knew it, I had 5 people, then 500, then 1,000 people. And those old guys in the business that were the sons of the rich guys, they never saw me coming. And I had such an advantage because they didn't respect me. They didn't take me seriously until I became the #1 rival. And they knew who I was by then. Well, you know, what happens that does the damage is you make fun of yourself. In a school system, they judge children by reading and writing, and I couldn't read till I was in 7th grade, so I was declared the dumb kid. But let me tell you something that happens. I didn't know then as a kid what would happen in my life. When I got out of that jailhouse, it was like a jailhouse, I used the power of that insult to prove to the world that I wasn't stupid. I don't think I really was convinced I wasn't stupid till I was like 55. Because I had to work so hard, like, oh my God, I'm always over-prepared. I always double try everything. I try so hard because I just never want to be back in that spot where people are laughing at me.
If you want to get a raise, and particularly if you're a woman who wants to get a raise, women don't ask for raises, I can tell you. I've employed thousands of women over my life. They do not ask for raises unless they absolutely must. And men ask all the time. And so what the smartest thing to do is, first of all, make an appointment to ask for a raise. Even if your expectation isn't that you're going to get it, at least ask for it, because that sets you up for the next meeting where you'll likely get it. And the smartest thing to do is to walk in with a list of your responsibilities when you started at the company, and then also the list of things you've taken on since you started. And simply make the boss aware that you have a lot more responsibility. You're delighted to take it on, give me more, but I'd like to be compensated, and to name a number you'd like. Most women, when they work up to the point where they'll ask for a raise, they won't give a number. I'd like to get a raise. Men will walk and say, I'd like to get a raise. I'd like it to be around 10, 15%. No qualms. So if you're a timid woman, I think a smart thing to do is ask, what would a man do? And walk in thinking like a man. I would know I'm not valued, and I would take the other job, because the one thing you must be in any position you are, male, female, whatever level you are, is you must be valued and appreciated to be promoted. It's a great way to go in and take a litmus test as to how you're valued in that boss's eyes. And your boss has more to do with your future than the company you're working for, your responsibilities and everything else. If they love you, they will push you ahead. I had so many people come and ask for raises over the years, of course, mostly men. My theory as a boss is you get ahead of your valued employees and you raise them before they ever get to ask. Because employees will kill for you if you can treat them with that kind of reverence and respect and prove it by paying them more. They'll kill for you, they're loyal forever. And I've always been very lucky to be surrounded by people that are enormously loyal, and it's no accident. Because I make sure I push money, recognition, whatever I have, opportunity, more valuable than raises, bonuses, whatever it takes to make them feel I am loved. That's what everybody wants.
Upside when you're getting much older, and I've gotten stronger and stronger in this way by the year, by the minute, okay? And I wish I knew it earlier. It's to be yourself. Because people, even if you're weird, a weirdo is often the most loved person in a team. I think if you could be yourself in all that it is, what typically happens is people like you because they can sense it's a real deal. It's the airs, the phoniness, the trying to impress, the insecurity, all the stuff that we all strive so hard for when we're young that gets in the way. Let me tell you, rejection is the big kahuna in all entrepreneurship. Okay, show me somebody who could take a hit, and I'll show you a good entrepreneur. I don't know if I made that up, but I think I did. But it's all in how well you get back up. And you know what I have found, by the way? Because if you think about it, great salespeople make a couple $1 million a year selling apartments in New York City, which my great salespeople do. Great entrepreneurs. All the business comes from them. They manage their own business. They hire staff. They're entrepreneurs. And you know what I found is the only difference between the superstars making the millions a year and the person's barely getting by? The only difference, not contacts, not how hard they work. Some people work just as hard and don't make any money, right? It's how long they feel sorry for themselves once they get hit. Some people could take a hit and milk it for 2 weeks. They're at their desks, they look like they're working, but they're not working. Mentally, they're not there. The great salespeople take the hit and then they jump right back up as though they've been hurt just as much as the next guy, but they work right through it and keep going. Let me tell you, if you have that skill, you should be an entrepreneur because you will be paid well for it. The single best thing I do, more than anything else I can do in building businesses for myself and these other people, while just speaking for myself, is I fail well. But I don't think so anymore. I can't wait to go to the amusement park. They have 171 franchises across America. Exactly what they envisioned. They got exactly the picture in great detail, where they're going to do it, how they're going to go to the other side of the river in Cincinnati, which is another state, I forget which one it is, how they're going to come cross back, I'm like, okay, well, guess what? I should have believed them, okay? They have big pictures in their head. And every entrepreneur might not have a business plan with everything. In fact, none of them really do. I think they're grossly overrated. But they sure have a movie in their head of who they're going to be when they grow up, all right? And when they can't express that movie on Shark Tank, I'm always out. If they don't see it, how am I going to see it and believe it? And they're not going to get there. We're more successful. Why? I didn't say compete with my other. That's the way they're wired, competitive. You get an entrepreneur who doesn't feel the heat of competition, he's not going to be good on his feet. She's not going to come to the fore when she really needs it. That competitive spirit drives you through all the things that don't make any common sense in life. That's what it does. The best time to start your own business is as quick as you can. And I'm going to give you 2 reasons why. When you're young, you're too stupid to know any better. You've never jumped off a cliff and fallen flat on your face, so you have courage. Once life gets a hold of you, you learn exactly what to be afraid of, what you might not succeed at. Everything gets nipped in. So I think the best time to start a business, quite frankly, is while you're in college. What do you have in college? Why is that the perfect time? You're open to the universe. You have a tremendous support system of professors with all different backgrounds ready to help you. And you have colleagues with different strengths around you, the fellow students. And you're hungry. You're hungry to prove something. So, in short, the best time is the earliest time you can possibly do it before you have the wife, the kids, the husband, and the mortgage. You know, the first thing you should do is go and work for a top salesperson. Best way to go in. The easiest job to get in New York if you want to go in real estate is to go to a rental company. It's like the bottom feeders right there. It's terrible, but you know what's great about it? And I ran a rental company for 8 years before I went into sales, thank God. And you know what's great about it? You get 100 times at bat. In other words, you answer 50 calls. Is that apartment available? Is that apartment available? Different when you're selling. It's a slow motion. So you get a lot of practicing. If you could work as a free slave even, for a licensed top salesperson, just sitting next to them being their slave or servant, you're gonna learn everything. You can't learn in a real estate school. You gotta be on the street and learn it. And so that's the most important thing. Fun is good for a business. Back to my dad. I mimicked my father's bizarreness, and it gave me a company culture that no one could compete with. At first, my competitors made fun of us. They called us the Corquettes. They said we were like a Midwestern firm, which isn't a compliment in New York City. It's supposed to be sophisticated, you know? And so, how did I use fun to build my business? Easy. The first fun event I planned, we were like 7 or 8 people. But anyway, I'll paint the picture with my words. I told everyone to dress in your best outfit, your absolute best outfit. Really deck yourself up and wear your best jewelry. Do your makeup fresh, like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, not just wear it from the morning. We're going somewhere special. I gave them the invitation 2 weeks early. People talked about it for 2 weeks. Excitement of looking forward to something is half the joy of anything fun, as you know.
Da, 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 da. What are you wearing? What are you wearing? They came down to the street on Madison 60th Street where our office was, and I had an old clunky double-decker bus waiting for them. Looked like it should have been retired 100 years ago. I said, come on up, come on up. They sat on the top, as it was open air. And then I took those fancy ladies, and one of my salespeople, a gay guy who dressed better than all of us, we couldn't compete. We took those fancy ladies right up to Harlem on a slow tour of Harlem, when Harlem had to be the scariest place in the universe, and totally different now. Nobody could talk about anything but the trip to Harlem. They were laughing, sharing what they were thinking, da 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 da. And I looked at my 8 salespeople, and I thought to myself, wow, what a team. They had been in trouble together, they laughed together, they were reflecting together, and for the first time I realized I had a culture going. And so I became the queen of fun for the rest of my life. I probably spent as much time planning the details of ridiculous fun frequently as much as I did with any other part of the business, because I saw it as a power tool. And guess what? I surprisingly got out of it that I never expected. I became the creative like hotbed company in New York. All the creative ideas came out of our company. We tried everything first. Why did that happen? Because we thought of all the ideas when we were having fun. I never had a good idea at my desk. I thought I did. But the really winning ideas always came on the way back from the movie theater when we were having a management meeting. I made everybody sit under the table instead of sit at their chairs just to move it around. Anything that was bizarre, get up on an elephant. When people were laughing and laughing and laughing, they were, you know what we should really do? We should blah, 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 blah. People were free, we were all equal, we were all playmates. And I created a powerful team as a result of fun. The most underestimated tool used in business today is the fun card, in my opinion. Nobody really has fun. People's idea of fun is having a cocktail, Happy New Year, oh, in a fancy place. It's not fun. People do a million things like that. I had my February parties, and what happened at my February parties? You weren't allowed in unless you dressed for it. Dress 1940s, okay? How do you dress and figure it out? They look forward to it. They couldn't get in unless they were 1940s. Dress in pink. I'm a guy, dress in pink. Perception creates reality. I'm sure you've heard that before, or another version of a more simple version is fake it till you make it, all right? My mom, when we were raised, was very Catholic, and she always said, remember, the meek will inherit the earth. No need to brag, just be a great person, people will recognize it, and you'll always do well. That was my mom's philosophy, but she had never been to New York. Let me tell you, New York, the nice people got mowed over. I saw that the first week I moved in, right? So my mother's philosophy didn't work in the business world. It may have been great for the home, but it didn't work in the business world. You know what I witnessed right away? That the big mouth with less talent inherited the earth. Okay? And so I had to develop for myself a really big mouth. It's always easier to start when you have nothing because you have nowhere to fall. You have nothing to lose and nothing but to go up, right? So if you're poor, it's easier to start. You have no expectation, you have no domineering parents who are asking you to be somebody. You're not measuring up to the dad who's successful. So if you're a poor kid, you have a huge advantage. The hard part is coming up with the cash. But if you could beg, borrow, or steal the cash to get some kind of traction, something going when you're young, well, it's not so hard anymore. Let's look at the list. I have 2 beautiful children, a husband that drives me nuts, but I've learned to live with him. I have beautiful homes. I have all the money that I could ever spend. I have my health. I have my siblings, and I have my friends.
Give us some tips, because I think we're all in the same boat, relatively speaking.
Everybody is. There's not enough time, there's too much to do, and you could occupy yourself 24/7 if you care to. All I can do is separate my personal life from my business life, and I do that very well. And I do it in a very simple fashion. I don't take any calls, including from my kids at work. If they're dying, they can call, and they'll get my secretary first. Now, that might sound cold, but when I'm at work, I'm hyper-focused on work. But when I get home at 6:30 at night, and I try to be home most nights with my kids, I take my cell phone, leave it in the hallway, because I live in an apartment building in New York City, and I don't look at that cell phone until I walk out at 7 the next morning. And you know what I do? I separate. When I'm with my kids, I'm 150%. When I'm with my work, I'm 150%, and that kind of gets rid of the guilt. There's 2 departments in my life, and I'm able to do both much better than trying to blend it like I used to in the old days. But what gets an entrepreneur stuck? One thing, the major stuck point of every entrepreneur that has failed in business is the taking of a rejection or a hard bump personally. personally and internalizing it, like, what did I do? Oh my gosh, I should have blah, 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 da, 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 da. This self-talk in the head that starts spinning you down. Most people think it's about the competition on the outside. I have not witnessed that. Everybody's got competition on the outside. What defeats people in business absolutely is the self-talk that's going on in the brain. And I know because I suffered from that for the first 5 or 6 years in business, because what people do is when they're insecure, when they take a hard hit, they go back to their worst self. And the worst self I always went back to was me in school not being able to read and kids making fun of me. And so there I was in business with a big bully like a Donald Trump or somebody else bullying on me, and I'd sit there and go, oh my God, why am I here? I shouldn't have come. Oh my God, I don't know. Oh, I shouldn't do. What was I doing that for? I was still that little kid in the classroom losing confidence until I got this new tape in my head that goes very different. Oh yeah? But I have found that with all my entrepreneurs. It's the self-talk that destroys, not the competition on the outside. If you could get over your own self-talk, you really could slay just about every dragon, because it gets you pissing mad, gets you back up and gets you fighting and gets you to the door. That's it.